Most of us walk right past them every single day. We glance at them in our change jars, slide them across the counter, or even toss them into a tip jar without a thought. But what if I told you that a simple penny, one you might not even bend down to pick up from the sidewalk, could actually be worth thousands of dollars? That's right, the unassuming 1972 Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin we all know and usually overlook, holds a secret that has left collectors speechless and auctions buzzing for decades. This is a story of how a seemingly ordinary copper coin became a numismatic legend, thanks to rare minting errors, unusual planchets, and a fascinating transitional anomaly known as the Double Die Obverse. It all begins in Philadelphia, 1972, when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies to meet the ever-growing demand for circulating currency. That year, the Philadelphia Mint struck over 2.9 billion Lincoln cents. Most of these coins looked and performed exactly as they should, simple copper coins with the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. But somewhere amid that massive production run, an error occurred, an error that would create one of the most sought-after Lincoln cents of the 20th century. This error is known in numismatic circles as the 1972 Double Die Obverse. Unlike a minor misalignment or a scratch, a double die is born at the very heart of the minting process, in the creation of the die itself. Dies are the steel molds that strike the image onto the blank coins, and when a die is manufactured incorrectly, its flaw is passed on to every coin it touches. In this case, one particular die at the Philadelphia Mint was impressed twice with the hub that creates the coin's design, but the two impressions were slightly offset. This created a doubling effect that is dramatic, clear, and unmistakable to even the naked eye. On a true 1972 Double Die Obverse penny, you can see the doubling most prominently on the inscriptions, Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, and the date 1972 itself. Each letter seems to have a ghostly twin slightly offset, a hallmark that has fascinated collectors for decades. And it's not just rare, it's valuable. One pristine example of this error, graded MS-67 red by PCGS, sold at auction for over $14,000. Even well-circulated examples can command hundreds of dollars today. For a bit of historical perspective, the Lincoln cent was introduced in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it became the first regular-issue U.S. coin to feature a real person's likeness, replacing the Indian head cent that preceded it. The reverse design was updated in 1959, replacing the original wheat ears with the Lincoln Memorial, in honor of the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The memorial reverse stayed in place until 2008. The 1972 issue sits squarely within this memorial reverse era, a period known for producing a few notable and highly collectible errors, including this double die. For collectors, the 1972 Double Die Obverse penny is a fascinating case of a major error slipping through the rigorous quality control of the mint at a time when production was booming. These errors are more than just flaws, they're windows into the story of American money, of the massive machinery and human oversight that create our everyday currency. Stories of big finds have only fueled the fascination. In the late 1990s, a man in Ohio discovered a 1972 double die penny in a jar of spare change he'd kept in a closet for decades. He submitted it to a grading service and was shocked to learn it was worth over $3,000 in its condition. Another collector, digging through rolls of pennies bought from a local bank, found 3 double die examples in one afternoon, a windfall worth thousands from a small investment and a sharp eye. These tales speak to something deeper, the idea that rare and beautiful things can still hide in plain sight, waiting to be found by those who know what to look for. That's why collectors, whether seasoned professionals or casual hobbyists, never stop searching through their coins. There's always the chance of uncovering a little piece of history, a little piece of magic, right there in your pocket change. And while the 1972 double die is the star of the show, it's worth noting that the Lincoln cent series has a rich tradition of fascinating errors and varieties that have kept collectors engaged for over a century. From the famous 1955 double die to the transitional 1943 copper cents and 1944 steel cents, to modern curiosities like the 1983 double die reverse, the Lincoln cent remains a playground for treasure hunters and history buffs alike. As you examine your own coins, keep in mind that condition plays a huge role in determining value. A high-grade coin with brilliant red luster, indicating minimal oxidation and handling, can fetch thousands more than a similar coin that has been heavily circulated. That's why collectors often handle coins only by the edges and store them in protective holders. The difference between a $100 coin and a $10,000 coin could come down to a few tiny scratches or a dull, spotted surface. Auction records over the years have only increased the legend of the 1972 Double Die. A notable sale by Heritage Auctions in 2019 saw a gem example sell for just shy of $15,000, while another, slightly lower in grade but still exceptional, sold for over $7,000. These aren't just numbers, they're proof of the enduring appeal of these rare finds, proof that even a humble penny can become a prized possession, a trophy, a conversation piece that connects its owner to a moment in history. The beauty of collecting coins is that it combines so many pleasures at once: the thrill of the hunt, the satisfaction of knowledge, the nostalgia of holding a little piece of the past, and the potential of an unexpected windfall. It's a hobby that rewards curiosity and patience, and the 1972 Double Die is a perfect example of what makes the pursuit so exciting. So, what can you do today? Simple. Check your change. Open up those jars and drawers where pennies have been collecting dust for years. Grab a magnifying glass and take a closer look. Focus on the date 1972, and pay close attention to the lettering. If you see that distinctive doubling on Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date itself, you may be holding a treasure worth more than you ever imagined. Whether you're a lifelong numismatist or someone just discovering the magic of coins, the story of the 1972 Double Die Lincoln cent reminds us all that history, mystery, and value can still be found in the most ordinary places. And every coin you hold is a tiny piece of America's story, waiting to be told. So don't let another day go by without checking your pennies. That little coin in your pocket might just be a big surprise in disguise, and a reminder that even the smallest things can sometimes hold the greatest value. There are treasures hiding in plain sight, treasures we pass by every single day without ever knowing their worth. Sometimes they sit in a dusty jar on a dresser, sometimes they ride around in a pocket, sometimes they're handed back to us in change and we don't even glance at them. But what if I told you that a humble penny, specifically a 1957 Lincoln 1-cent wheat penny, could actually be worth thousands of dollars? That's right. A coin you've probably seen countless times before and never thought twice about might just hold a story of rare minting errors, unusual planchets, and fascinating transitional anomalies that have turned it into one of the most intriguing collectibles in all of American numismatics. It's a story that begins in the mid-1950s at the United States Mint, a time when the nation was booming after the end of World War II. In 1957 alone, the Philadelphia and Denver mints produced over 1 billion wheat pennies combined. They were the workhorse of American currency, a familiar sight in everyone's pocket. Yet among the billions of perfect specimens struck that year, a handful of coins came out different. And those differences, invisible to most, would later set collectors' hearts racing. The Lincoln cent had already been in circulation for nearly 50 years by then, first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the original coin featured Lincoln's profile on the obverse and a pair of stylized wheat ears flanking the words 1 cent on the reverse. This design, now lovingly referred to as the wheat penny, remained in production until 1958, after which it was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial reverse. That means the 1957 wheat penny was minted near the very end of an era, making even its ordinary examples nostalgic reminders of a bygone time. But we're not here to talk about ordinary examples. We're here to talk about the rare ones. One of the most sought-after varieties of the 1957 wheat penny is the Double Die Obverse. A double die occurs when the hub that impresses the design onto the die shifts slightly between impressions, creating a dramatic doubling effect on the finished coin. In 1957, a handful of dies left the mint with this flaw. On these coins, you can see clear doubling on the words "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and sometimes the date itself. The effect is almost ghostly, as though each letter is echoed just off to the side, a striking and unmistakable signature of this rare error. A particularly fine example of a 1957 double die wheat penny graded MS-65 red sold at auction for over $2,000. That's quite a return on investment for something you might find at the bottom of your change jar. And even coins that show moderate circulation wear but still display the doubling can bring in hundreds of dollars. For collectors, these coins are more than just copper, they are tangible pieces of mint history, bearing witness to a rare mistake that slipped past quality control and found its way into the world. But the double die isn't the only story the 1957 penny has to tell. There are also examples struck on transitional or unusual planchets, blanks of the wrong metal. During the mid-20th century, the U.S. Mint experimented with different compositions for cents as the price of copper fluctuated. Occasionally, a blank intended for a foreign coin or an experimental test piece would find its way into the press, resulting in a wheat penny with a strikingly different color and weight. Some 1957 pennies have been discovered struck on silver-colored planchets or on blanks meant for dimes. These oddities can fetch thousands at auction, their uniqueness making them irresistible to collectors eager for the rare and unusual. The proof coins of 1957 also have their own fascinating chapter. Proofs, struck specifically for collectors, are made with special care, using polished dies and planchets to produce coins of exceptional detail and brilliance. That year, the Philadelphia Mint produced just over 1.2 million proof sets. While most of these coins are beautiful but common, there are occasional proof strikes with dramatic cameo contrast, where Lincoln's profile appears frosty white against a mirrored field, commanding premium prices in the collector market. Beyond the technical details and the auction prices, though, there's something deeply nostalgic and almost cinematic about holding a wheat penny in your hand. These coins evoke an America of another time, of soda fountains and jukeboxes, of newsboys and nickels and dimes. They passed through the hands of our grandparents, helped by war bonds and candy bars, paid for a gallon of gas or a morning newspaper. Every scratch and nick on a wheat penny is a tiny chapter in a long, collective story. And among them, hidden in plain sight, are the rare ones, the ones that make the heart of a collector skip a beat. One famous story involves a retired schoolteacher in Pennsylvania who, while sorting through a coffee can of wheat pennies her husband had saved for decades, discovered a perfect 1957 Double Die Obverse. She'd almost thrown it back into the pile, thinking nothing of it, but something about the unusual lettering caught her eye. When she had it authenticated and graded, it came back as an MS-64 red, worth nearly $1,800. Stories like hers keep collectors searching, decade after decade, through rolls of pennies and old change jars, hoping to find the next big discovery, and they keep finding them. As recently as a few years ago, an uncirculated 1957 double die penny graded MS-65 sold at a major auction for over $2,500. That same auction featured a transitional error penny from 1957 struck on a silver dime planchet, which brought in more than $4,000. These aren't just coins, they're proof that even the smallest, most ordinary things can carry extraordinary value. The allure of collecting wheat pennies, especially rare varieties like those from 1957, isn't just about the money, though. It's about the thrill of the hunt, the joy of discovery, and the connection to history. Every coin is a little piece of America, a snapshot of its time, and finding one of the rare errors is like uncovering a hidden treasure. For seasoned collectors, the 1957 wheat penny represents a cornerstone of the hobby, a classic coin from the last years of the beloved wheat design, with enough rarity and variety to keep things interesting. For everyday viewers and casual hobbyists, it's a perfect entry point into numismatics, affordable, nostalgic, and with just enough mystery to make it feel like an adventure. So here's what you can do right now. Grab that jar of pennies sitting on your shelf. Dig through those old rolls of coins you bought at the bank years ago. Even check the change in your pocket before you spend it. Look for 1957 wheat pennies, and when you find them, take a closer look. Check the lettering. Does it look doubled? Does the surface have an unusual color or weight? If so, you might just be holding something extraordinary, and remember, condition matters. Coins that have been well cared for, that still show their original luster and rich red copper color, can be worth exponentially more than heavily circulated examples. So handle them carefully, store them properly, and when in doubt, have them professionally graded. The story of the 1957 Lincoln 1-cent wheat penny is more than just a story about money. It's a story about looking closer, about noticing the small details, about finding beauty and value in the everyday. It reminds us that even the most ordinary things can have a hidden history, a secret worth discovering. So the next time you see a penny, don't just walk past it. Pick it up. Look at it. You never know when you might uncover a piece of history, a little copper treasure with a story all its own. What if I told you that a penny, yes, just a single Lincoln cent, might be worth thousands of dollars, hiding right under your nose? A coin you've likely seen hundreds of times in your life, passed over without a second thought, could carry a secret that turns it into a rare and priceless piece of American history. The 1960 U.S. Lincoln 1-cent penny is one of those coins. And tonight, we're going to uncover its hidden history, its remarkable errors, and the captivating stories that have made this unassuming copper coin a sought-after treasure in the world of numismatics. It's hard to imagine now, but in 1960 the penny was still a symbol of everyday life in America, used by kids to buy candy or by grown-ups to feed parking meters. Nearly 2 billion Lincoln cents were minted that year across the Philadelphia and Denver mints, a staggering number that made the 1960 penny seem anything but rare. But among those billions of coins, a few were different. A few carried mysterious errors and fascinating anomalies that turned them into legends among collectors, coins with stories that can make even seasoned numismatists catch their breath. To understand why, we need to go back to the origins of the Lincoln cent itself. First introduced in 1909 to commemorate Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday, it was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person on its obverse, a decision that at the time sparked both admiration and controversy. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the coin featured Lincoln's dignified profile on one side and the iconic wheat stalks on the other. In 1959, however, the wheat stalks were replaced with the Lincoln Memorial to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. And that's what makes the 1960 penny so fascinating, because it arrived just a year after that historic design change, right at the dawn of a new era for the Lincoln cent. But the real story of the 1960 penny is a story of mistakes, beautiful, rare, and highly collectible mistakes. The most famous of these is the 1960 small date and large date variety. During that year, the mint unintentionally produced two distinct designs for the date, one with smaller, tighter numbers and another with larger, more prominent ones. Collectors quickly noticed the difference, and the hunt for both varieties, and the elusive combination struck at the Denver Mint, became one of the most exciting chases in modern numismatics. Particularly rare are the 1960 D small date pennies in high grades, which can fetch thousands of dollars at auction. A pristine example graded MS 67 red sold for over $3,200 at a major auction, an incredible sum for a coin most people would mistake for pocket change, but it doesn't end there. The 1960 Lincoln cent is also known for its double die obverse errors. A double die happens when the hub used to create the die shifts slightly between strikes, imprinting a doubled image that's then transferred onto the coins it produces. On the 1960 penny, this doubling is most noticeable on the words Liberty and In God We Trust, where the letters appear as ghostly shadows of themselves. For collectors, spotting a clean, dramatic double die on a 1960 penny is like striking gold. Even in circulated condition, these coins can command hundreds of dollars. In uncirculated condition, they become coveted gems that can bring in thousands. And then there are the transitional and unusual planchet errors. During the late 1950s and early 1960s, the mint was experimenting with different metals and planchet types to cut costs. Occasionally, blank planchets intended for other coins, or even other countries, found their way into the presses. A 1960 penny struck on a silver dime planchet or on a thinner experimental planchet would weigh less, look different, and instantly stand out as something extraordinary. These rarities are among the most prized finds in the hobby, sometimes selling for several $1,000s to collectors eager for a unique piece of mint history. The proof coins of 1960 also have their own story to tell. Struck in Philadelphia, proof coins are made with extra care and polished dies, resulting in coins of stunning detail and mirror-like surfaces. That year, over 1 million proof sets were sold to collectors. But some of those proof pennies exhibit strong cameo contrast, with Lincoln's frosted profile standing out against deep mirrored fields. High-grade proof cameos and deep cameos from 1960 are highly sought after, with premium prices paid for examples in pristine condition. What's most fascinating about these errors and varieties is how they slipped through it all. In an era before high-tech scanning and automated quality control, it was up to human eyes and hands to catch mistakes. But with billions of coins rushing through the presses, it's no surprise that some mistakes got out. For collectors, that human imperfection is part of what makes these coins so appealing. They're reminders of a time when every penny really did pass through the hands of craftsmen and workers. Collectors who lived through the 1960s remember the excitement of discovering these varieties firsthand. Stories abound of kids rolling pennies in paper wrappers for the bank and noticing one with a date that just looked different. One famous account comes from a man in Ohio who, as a teenager, found a pristine 1960 D small date while helping his father roll coins. That penny, worth perhaps a fraction of a cent at the time, turned out decades later to be a coin worth over $1,500, a tiny treasure hiding in plain sight, and that's part of the magic of these coins. They carry not just monetary value but also stories. Each 1960 Lincoln cent tells a tale, of the mint, of the era, of the people who handled it. They evoke memories of soda fountains, drive-in theaters, and a time when pennies still bought something. For collectors, holding a 1960 small date or a double die is like holding a piece of Americana, a tangible connection to a simpler, yet no less fascinating, time. Auction records show just how far the demand for these coins has grown. In recent years, a full roll of uncirculated 1960 small date cents sold for over $10,000. High-grade double dies regularly command prices in the thousands, with premium examples bringing even more. These aren't just coins, they're investments, heirlooms, and conversation pieces rolled into one small copper disc. For seasoned collectors, the 1960 Lincoln cent is a cornerstone of mid-century collecting, a coin with enough variety and challenge to keep even the most experienced numismatist engaged. For casual hobbyists and everyday viewers, it's proof that even the smallest, most ordinary objects can carry extraordinary stories and surprising value. So here's your call to action. Check your old coin jars, your dresser drawers, your rolls of pennies tucked away in a closet. Look closely at your 1960 pennies. Compare the date. Does it seem smaller or larger than others? Examine the lettering for doubling. Weigh it if you can. Does it feel lighter than normal? If you find something unusual, you might just be holding a rare and valuable piece of history in your hand, and when you do find something, handle it carefully. The condition of a coin, its luster, its color, the sharpness of its strike, can make all the difference in its value. Store it properly, and if you suspect you found a rare variety, have it authenticated and graded by a reputable coin grading service. The story of the 1960 Lincoln 1-cent penny reminds us of something profound, that even the smallest, most unassuming things can hold beauty, history, and value beyond what meets the eye. So the next time you see a penny on the ground, don't just walk past it. Pick it up. Look closely. You never know when you might uncover a hidden treasure, a little copper coin with a big story to tell.